For assignment 2, you're going to take images that you photographed and make color corrections to them. That is one of many things that you can do with color in Photoshop. There's a video already set up for that, so I'm not going to cover that again. It's a really good video. It will help show you how to correct color. And it's for minor problems that you have with photography, making adjustments to them. And Photoshop does a really good job with that. What I want to show you here in this video is the several different options you have for working with color, making color changes. And some of them can be really dramatic and really creative. We won't get into in this video. There is down here, we do have an option for fill and adjustment layers that really work great with color. We're not going to cover that yet, but we will cover that in this course. Okay, so image adjustment, and you're going to see there are a lot of options here for working with making changes. We can adjust the brightness and the contrast of the image. Levels and curves are two areas that allow us to work with color. Vibrance has to do a little bit more with the feel, but it is tied to color. Hue, saturation, hue, as you should have learned in DMPT 1000, is color. Saturation of the color. We have color balance, black and white, which we covered. Photo filters can add a little bit of color. You have channel mixers, color lookup. Let's see, what else do we have here? Desaturate completely removes the saturation, and it's a way to turn an image that has color in it to grayscale. You can match color, you can replace color, you can equalize. Okay, so where I really want to start in this video for this series is color balance. Okay, it's color balance. Now, color balance, as you can see, and by the way, this is my image. I created these sprites in my 3D Studio Max course, and it's his little balloon, and rendered it out, and so this is my property. And this is what I rendered out, which is what I wanted. But sometimes when you're working with an image, it's not quite right and you want to make some changes. And color balance is a way to allow you to take a look at your image and say, that image is a little too red, or it's a little too green, or it's a little too blue. And the way you balance that out is by adding its complement. So for red, you would add cyan. For green, you would add magenta, and for blue, you would add yellow. So for instance, this is a little yellow. Watch what happens when I remove yellow by adding blue. You see how my image gets bluer the more I remove the yellow? Now there's still yellow in there, but even the yellow highlights that are in there are kind of cool compared to what they were. If I increase my yellow, I lose my blue. Okay, above, green. There's more green. I've taken out magenta. Now you're almost never going to go all the way to these extremes. You're mostly going to just make slight adjustments. Say, hey, I'd like to warm that image up, add a little bit of magenta, take out some of the green. And then red makes it redder. Cyan makes it more. And if you use different variables here, you can change the overall image in those directions. Now, I can just type in zeros here to zero this out. Now, I was working with midtones. Watch what happens when I work with shadows. Okay, for instance, I'm going to take out all the yellow, and it has completely neutralized my background. Those are my shadows. Okay, now shadows are usually the darkest parts of your image. So when you're on shadows for your tone balance, it's going to work in those dark areas. Highlights, let's see, let's do this with the yellow. Should get rid of some of the yellow there. Oh, it didn't. It went the opposite way. All right, let's try this with the cyan, because I have some highlights. There we go. So you can see the highlights are the areas where light hits the object and creates those bright spots. Whoops, 0, not O. Zero that out. Okay, and you have this preview button. And the nice thing is, if you're not seeing the preview on your image, check it. And it will allow you to see what you're doing in real time. And this is just a really simple, easy way. If you take a photo indoors and it has a green look to it, come add a little bit of magenta, and it should help get rid of that and balance out your image. Another one we want to cover. Image, adjustments. Let's talk about hue saturation right above it. This allows me to make changes to the master. Let's see, I'm sorry, I realize I'm getting outside of my thing here. The master, or I can make changes to individual colors. Now, master will allow me to adjust the overall color of my image. Almost never do you do this, almost never. However, if you do have an image that the color balance is off a little bit, this is a really simple way to just go in and tweak it. Usually I use it a tiny bit either way. It's also another way, this is very, very saturated, I don't need to add more. But if you have an image that's kind of flat and you feel like the color needs to pop more, you can come in here and control the saturation. I rarely use this. This just makes all your colors lighter or darker. I usually use the brightness or the contrast to achieve that. Now, here's what's really cool. One of the things I can do is, say I want to keep everything in this scene that's red. I can go pull this down, and I'm going to skip over my red and hit yellow, and I'm going to desaturate it. I'm going to come back to green, desaturate, cyans, desaturate, blues, desaturate. You see what's happening? Magentas, desaturate. And the only thing that's left are my reds. So that's a really cool trick that I like to use that helps me create some really interesting effects to an image where everything is black and white except for one color. And now that I have that one color, I can show you this. You can also individually, each one of these colors, edit it, modify it. So now that I've got that in there, it should allow me to adjust the hue. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Reds. Go back to my red. That was the only color left. And now you see I can just change that one color in my image to something else. So that's one way that you can play with color in your images. Okay, I'm going to stop right here.